Thanks for the introduction, and to Anthea and the PSO team for convening this important conference. And also thanks for making these arrangements for me to be able to present remotely via this recording. I certainly didn't have Cyclone Hits Brisbane on my list of things that could go pear-shaped in 2025, and I suspect nor did Anthea or the team. So we'll do our best. I want to acknowledge the PSO board members in the room for their strategic oversight of this important Jobs and Skills Council, and also call out, importantly, the foundation members, the ETU, NECA and Master Electricians for their role in the Jobs and Skills Council, and a special shout out to their members who are already preparing for, and in some cases responding to, the impacts of this cyclone. Today, I really wanted to cover off on a couple of elements, a little bit about JSA and our role, showcase one of our powerful data products, Vanda, and perhaps recap a little on the size and scale of the challenges before us, which hopefully helps set the scene for the conference discussions and debates that will occur over the next 24 hours. But before I start, I should acknowledge the traditional owners upon which the land we meet. For me, I'm in Meanjin, Brisbane, and I want to acknowledge the Turrbal and Jagera people and pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the lands on which you're meeting. I'll try and share my screen now, and let's see how we go. So as you can see, there are 5 strategic pillars that guide our work at JSA. We are focused on broadening employment opportunities through identifying and removing barriers for people and communities, fostering inclusive participation. We seek to build the evidence base to inform and address current and emerging labour market and skills needs by understanding today's workforce. We project forward to plan for the opportunities and challenges of our nation's future workforce needs by shaping Australia's future workforce. We optimise the pathways and system architecture by monitoring, analysing and advising on the effectiveness of the national skills system. An example of that is our recently released consultation paper on tertiary harmonisation. And we convene stakeholders across the skills system to provide the best evidence and advice on Australia's current and future workforce and skills needs and opportunities by activating an informed dialogue. We also have clear legislative functions and powers, as you can see on the screen. And together, our 5 strategic pillars and our legislative remit means that JSA's work is critically important to ensuring the jobs and skills Australia needs are available now and into the future to tackle the big challenges facing our economy. Our teams at JSA are delivering the evidence-based analysis needed to deliver the high-quality jobs and the valuable skills needed to perform them. Our comprehensive analysis provides the evidence base that industry and government need to make the right decisions. And our work delivers a full and thorough analysis of the challenges and opportunities that different sectors of our economy face through deep engagement with the broadest possible set of stakeholders. I asked our team to prepare some analysis at a high level of the powering skills sector. So as you can see on this screen, we have taken those skills or occupations that sit within the various ANSCO groupings that apply to this sector. Across the top of the screen, you can see several of JSA's products, including our Internet Vacancy Index, which you can see there shows a reduction in the number of job advertisements across the sector for the past quarter. This is likely in part due to the end-of-year recruitment practices in the sector, but also you can see year on year, which is a much more nuanced story of inflation impacts, global impacts, and changes in commodity prices, global uncertainty, decline in fossil fuels, increasing the reduction in replacement jobs in those specific areas. You can see our recruitment experience and outlook survey data for the energy sector, which shows a small decline of 1% of how difficult it has been to recruit, with only a small 2% increase in employers who were recruiting in the period of the past 12 months. You can also see our survey of employers who have recently advertised, or our CERA product, which shows a 6.6% increase in advertised vacancies being filled, showing changes in the labour market are making it a little bit easier for employers to fill roles. You can also see across this sector that the levels of employment have grown by 6.4% over the year to November 2024. And you can see that 13.1% increase in the aggregate hours worked across the sector, which is also a story of skills shortage and employers seeking their workforces to work more hours to fill skills gaps that they are finding difficult to fill. You can also see the broader all economy unemployment rate still remains historically low at a seasonally adjusted 4.1%. And the youth employment story is an important one. Youth unemployment, sorry, I should say, is an important one, which indicates that young people are experiencing perhaps a more negative or are more negatively impacted by the current jobs market and economic situation. I wanted to introduce one of JSA's powerful data products that is readily available to all of you and can be accessed online. The Vocational Education and Training National Data Asset, or VANDA as we call it, is a collaborative project between Jobs and Skills Australia and the Australian Bureau of Statistics. VANDA brings together a range of government administrative data assets to track the employment, economic and further study outcomes of VET students in a de-identified way to maintain those individuals' privacy. For the most recent VANDA release, the publication provides statistical insights on over 430,000 domestic non-school students who've completed a nationally recognised VET qualification in the 2019 to 2020 financial year and analyses their situation 1 year post-graduation. I've selected a few of the key qualifications to show you across the Certificate 1, 2, the 2, 3 and 4 levels within PSO's remit. What you can see here in the data is that both these Certificate 2 qualifications provide powerful pathways to employment with significant uplifts in employability for those students who complete these qualifications. You can also see in the Certificate 2 Career Start that 52% of students who went through the Certificate 2 who were on income support when they commenced exited income support 1 year post-study. That's a very powerful story just in itself. We also see the median income outcome of both of these post-study outcomes and the uplift that these study pathways provide to people. This is just at the Certificate 2 level, remember. We also see that some certificates are very powerful pathways to further study, including the Career Start seeing a move towards 48% of those graduating students into higher level VET qualifications and 7% moving towards higher education. Even the Certificate 2 in Powerline Vegetation Control is leading to further higher level VET study outcomes. In the Certificate 3 qualifications, again, we see this really powerful employability post-graduation, with 100% of students in the distribution overhead apprenticeship having an employment outcome post-apprenticeship, and 96% in the electrician apprenticeship having a post-employment outcome. Both of these are higher than the national trend of other all vocational education and training courses that we tracked. 82% of people who did the electrotechnology course exited income support, who were on income support when they commenced their apprenticeship. Again, another very powerful story to tell. Unfortunately, the data sets, when they become too small can't be published for those privacy reasons I mentioned earlier, and therefore we don't have a sizable enough cohort to give you that information with the distribution overhead outcome. But the median incomes of both these occupations is another compelling story for why we should be encouraging people through VET pathways, and why this particular VET pathway and electrical apprenticeships are really important opportunities, particularly for young people. And the income uplift story in both of these cases is incredibly significant across the 4 years of the apprenticeship. Interestingly, here we see that only a small cohort of the electricians continued into higher level VET or higher education post completion of the apprenticeship within that 12 months, which is unsurprising when usually we often say that for the electrician, you almost learn as much in your first 2 years post-trade as you did in your entire 4 years of your apprenticeship. But also the distribution overhead outcome, it's interesting to note that we didn't see any move towards post-studies in either higher level VET or higher education. And looking at the Certificate 4 in instrumentation, again, a huge story of employability post this qualification. Again, the data is not available for income support, more likely in this occasion because people were employed prior to and post-training. The median income uplift of $12,600 on average for people who complete this course is a powerful story. And again, we are seeing similar trends to the electrician of further study in either higher level VET qualifications or indeed higher ed pathways. With regard to the workforce, I thought it might be useful to recap on the Clean Energy Workforce Capacity Study, and the capacity and cohort studies are a significant part of JSA's work remit. As you'd be aware, and I'm sure nearly everyone in this room would have seen, this report was released in October 2023 and made a very significant impact to the debate and discussion around the energy transition. I'm pretty sure this report entrenched in the Australian vernacular the often repeated 32,000 electricians by 2030. But it also highlighted a whole range of other issues, that we would need close to 2 million workers in building and engineering trades by 2050, that many of the skills needed to decarbonise our economy already exist in the economy, the story of regional Australia and how it can benefit from the net zero transformation if it's done right, that setting and forgetting will not work, and high risk means we need real reform, that on-the-job skilling and industry-led training is crucial to the success of the sector. We talked about global competition for clean energy skills being fierce, and that Australia in some regards needed to play catch-up. We talked about a worker-centred approach to support the transitioning regions that is needed to gain social acceptance. And we also identified that better data equals better workforce planning. The story of that demand for the workforce is a large story, and it's one that draws out this issue that the VET sector faces many challenges in order to address this opportunity. The VET sector trains almost 4.5 million students each year and will be responsible for training 44% of new jobs over the next 10 years. And many of Australia's widespread occupational shortages of VET qualified jobs, including VET teachers themselves, and high demand for the VET workforce is on display, but with a decreasing supply of VET teachers. For the energy sector, that shortage of VET trainers is pronounced. Trainers and teachers are integral in developing a flexible workforce with the skills required by industry to power the clean energy transition. And due to that high demand for skills, it can be very hard to attract workers from industry to join the training workforce. The added requirements to complete the Certificate 4 in training and assessment has been described as a deterrent by industry, and there are growing questions of if this qualification is fit for purpose. And with limited teachers in Australia, there needs to be greater collaboration and sharing between and within and across RTOs and industry. We also identified the lack of training facilities. Our report emphasises the necessity for significant investment in training infrastructure to meet the nation's clean energy goals. 75% of new clean energy jobs will be in regional Australia, compounding this challenge. You'll see in our recent reports that there are overlaying stories of regionality in areas of clean energy and energy transition across the food supply chain in our recent food supply chain report, and in early childhood education and care, and a range of other sectors, with challenges and significant government policy responses happening on top of each other in these regions. The question and challenge for us is, how do we leverage these challenges and opportunities together? How do we work across industries and government to maximise the rollout of government policy responses in the regions? How do we avoid siloing, particularly with a focus on developing the social infrastructure that we need in these regions as a major workforce attraction in retention challenge? How do we build the schools, the hospitals, the public transport, the childcare centres that ensure workers can participate fully in those regional economies? The Clean Energy Generation Report was released in late 2023, as I mentioned, and it has already supported a range of government measures. But as you can see, much has happened since our report. Many policy measures and programs have been announced and or legislated since that time, some adding to the size and scale and speed of the challenge, as well as the complexity. In response to the Clean Energy Generation Report, there have been several measures by government to strengthen apprenticeships and vet in the clean energy sector. And I'm sure all of you have been watching these as well. The Apprenticeship Incentives Review, for example, was released recently, and the report made 34 recommendations aimed at streamlining and enhancing apprenticeship programs, notably looking at increasing incentive payments to apprentices, enhancing financial incentives to employers, and providing targeted assistance to underrepresented cohorts. It has also named JSA specifically in playing a role in the future in the setting of these incentives, something JSA is working with the department now to identify what role we could play. Perceptions and status of vet inquiry was also a significant government response, which really focused the need to address the reputation of vet and to identify vet as a genuine career opportunity for graduating post-secondary school students in particular. And certainly if you think back to that Vanda dashboards that I showed you earlier, that can be a powerful tool to use to promote those different qualifications that sit within PSO's training packages. And of course, there's been a range of government policy programs and incentives that have been announced, even just this week, the announcement of various mentoring programs, which I know several of you in this room have been involved in curating and your organisations will be implementing. And of course, PSO themselves, and I'll let PSO talk for their own work, but we do know that PSO has done much work already in the Gateway Review for early entry-level qualifications like the Certificate 2s I highlighted earlier, in implementing the essential performance capability adjustments for electricians following ERAC's review, and PSO's role in the vet workforce analysis that JSA is looking forward to working with PSO on. At JSA, we're focused on ensuring that all Australians have access to opportunities to increase their skills, to gain qualifications, and to uplift their earning potential. Migration must be complementary to Australia's skills needs, not instead of the domestic workforce. We know that there are many challenges that are needed to be addressed, some I've outlined already, to significantly increase training throughput for the sector. These include improving apprentice completion rates, improving access to training facilities through significant capital upgrades, increasing apprenticeship commencements, particularly in subsectors that perhaps have underperformed to date, getting apprenticeship incentive rights, increasing women's First Nations participation across the sector, and exploring opportunities for the disability community, ensuring training is accessible in the regions. These, of course, will all take time. We know there is a large cohort of migrant workers already in the system in the country, and that migration will continue to play a role in the sector going forward. Many of you would know electrician and air conditioning and refrigeration mechanics are two occupations that have very clear formal pathways through Trades Recognition Australia. A challenge for industry is to identify opportunities to improve these systems, including beyond these two occupations. And I know some in this room are already turning their minds to this. Employers, unions, and training providers working together with government to identify best practice approaches for other occupations which currently have less structured pathways to improve and maintain the quality, integrity of the system is critically important work. In closing, I just want to thank you all for your deep engagement and commitment to this important sector. I encourage you to use JSA's products in your advocacy for your sector and to continue engaging with our work. Your participation only makes our analysis and our recommendations to government stronger. As you deliberate on the many conference topics over these 2 days, I urge you to continue to work towards those important industry-endorsed outcomes. When unions, employers, government, and the training sector come together, we know we get better, more enduring solutions to the challenges in front of us. Thanks for having me.